His Excellency the State President, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, has made the statement of national address on disaster. We now broadcast the statement.
My fellow Malawians, in early January 2015, heavy rainstorms and floods hit 15 out of the 28 districts in Malawi, namely Chikwawa, Palombe, Rumpi, Cholo, Chazlo, Balak, Sanje, Zomba, Karonga, Mashiga, Cheu, Mlanje, Salima, and Blanta. The government of Malawi estimates that at least 104 people have been displaced, and their houses have been washed away, or their roofs blown off, or were inundated, or simply collapsed because of water logging conditions. In addition to this, 62 deaths have been reported since the declaration of the disaster, as well as several injuries, with 153 people still missing. However, this number is expected to rise as more information is received and analyzed and rains continue to fall. Ladies and gentlemen, field observations and follow-up rapid assessments by an interagency assessment team comprising representatives of the Ministry of Health, Department of Disaster Management Affairs in the VP's office, UNICEF, the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, UNRCO, the Malawi Police Service, the Ministry of Lands and Housing, the Malawi Red Cross, and WFP demonstrated that the floods have caused severe damage in these districts, including the loss of livestock, the destruction of farmlands, houses, bridges, schools, and health facilities, as well as damage to the water supply, irrigation systems, food storage, and processing facilities. These findings were confirmed by United Nations Disaster Assessment and Coordination Team, UNDAC, which undertook a second assessment. Entire communities have been cut off from health services, safe water, and other critical basic services, rendering women and children particularly vulnerable. In addition, displacement is exacerbating the food security conditions of already vulnerable host families. Affected populations have little or no access to food, shelter, and transport. In some areas, the risk of outbreaks of communicable diseases is also high, which is expected to rapidly increase malnutrition, food insecurity, as well as maternal and neonatal deaths. My fellow Malawians, during my tour to the affected areas, I've noted that the displacement sites are crowded. 35 people live in tents made for 8, and more than 600 households camp in one school. There is lack of basic services such as water, sanitation, and hygiene, raise concerns over possible disease outbreaks. There is urgent need of food in all temporary displacement sites, shelter, clothing, water, hygienic materials, soap, kitchen utensils, blankets, plastic sheeting, construction materials and tools, latrines, agricultural inputs for the current season, and the protection services. I'm grateful to organizations and individuals, both local and international, who have responded quickly to our call for assistance. But I still call upon more well-wishers to kindly donate to our brothers and sisters and the needs are numerous. Since the onset of the flooding, the government and various partners in the country have been responding to the needs of affected communities. For instance, following reports of initial flooding in Chikwawa, the government of Malawi, UN agencies, international and local NGOs, civil society organizations, and the Malawi Red Cross Society, as well as the private sector, have distributed relief items, including tents, tarpaulins, and food to the displaced populations. This, however, cannot cover the needs of the displaced population. Therefore, there is an acute need for the provision of more relief items to cover gaps arising from increasing number of affected people. Unlike previous responses, the current response is expected to take longer because the displaced populations have to stay at displacement sites much longer. As such, more resources are required to meet their daily needs for a minimum of 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen, following the declaration of the state of disaster, the National Disaster Preparedness and Relief Committee, chaired by the Vice President and comprising of ministers, principal secretaries, senior MDF, police officials, and cooperating NGOs, for example, World Vision, Red Crosses, was activated and met on Sunday, January 8th, at the Vice President's office, where, among others, the meeting agreed to continue and speed up the search and rescue efforts in the Lower Sire, intensify the food distribution together with the World Food Program to save lives by meeting immediate food needs of the people affected by the floods, and engage all preventive measures to avoid outbreak of diseases like cholera in the camps. The committee has since established appropriate clusters to manage the relief operations and engage all preventive measures to avoid outbreak of diseases like cholera in camps. The committee has since established appropriate clusters to manage the relief operations. A National Emergency Operations Center has been established at the Department of Disaster Management Affairs in order to enhance information flow and coordination. Liaison officers from the clusters are operating from the center in collaboration with officials from the UN Office of Coordination and Humanitarian Affairs. Currently, 10 clusters are operational. These are food security, agriculture, health, nutrition, education, protection, water, and sanitation and hygiene, transport and logistics, shelter and camp management, and coordination and assessments. These clusters will oversee the implementation of the response under the leadership of the cluster leaders and co-leaders in the country. Coordination, implementation, and monitoring of the response activities will be jointly undertaken through these clusters. Each cluster is led by a relevant government department. At the district level, the cluster work with the line ministry, represented at the district level under the charge of a district commissioner. Senior Malawi Defense Force officers have been placed in each district to commandeer logistics. My fellow Malawi, the recent floods have caused a lot of damage and will therefore bring many negative socio-economic effects to the Malawi economy. The growth of the country is largely driven by agriculture, manufacturing, electricity, water, and the mining sectors, among others. These have all been adversely affected by the floods, to the extent that the country is likely to achieve economic growth lower than the 5.8% projected area for 2015. Preliminary assessment shows that the damage caused by the flood disaster to the economy is estimated at 23.9 billion kwacha, excluding the cost of the relief programs currently underway. Around 234 schools were damaged and 181 were being used as relocation sites for displaced people who have lost their homes in the floods. A total of 415 schools affected. The numbers are currently at 147, thanks to the donations and distribution of tents. An estimated 200,000 students are not able to attend school due to their schools being flooded or occupied by those who require temporary shelters. Health centers are also damaged and or lack of personnel and medical supplies to cope with the needs of displaced populations. The Department of Service estimates that 63,531 hectares have been submerged by flood waters as of 13th January 2015. It is estimated that around 166,000 farmers countrywide have been affected, with 35,000 hectares of cropland impacted. On the basis of available information so far, 5.6 billion worth of maize, 1.5 billion worth of rice, 320 million worth of groundnuts, 728 million worth of cotton, and 51.8 million worth of fish have been lost. It is also estimated that a total of 2.9 billion worth of livestock has been lost. Typical rural households rely on sales of agricultural produce and livestock. The washing away of these assets has therefore aggravated the food insecurity situation in this country. Further, this implies there is loss of agriculture revenue among the poor households, which is one of the major sources of income for buying food. In this respect, the floods will have a huge impact on household food security during 2015-2016 consumption season for the following reasons. One, total food production of households will be reduced during the 24-25 agriculture season unless farmers replant their fields. It should also be noted that all the fertilizer that has been applied in the affected foods has also been lost. If no replanting is done, households will have less or no harvest at all, hence less food to take them to the next harvest season. And considering that other sources of income such as livestock and cash crop have already been affected due to the flooding, they will not have income to access food through the markets. In essence, this means that the problem of food insecurity among households is heightened to levels that will put a lot of pressure on the budget in order to assist the households affected by the floods across the country. In this case, the budget in excess of 3.6 billion kwacha will be required for replanting. Concerns of further flooding are high as rains are forecast to continue for some months. Further flooding will hamper relief efforts as more people will become affected and hence require immediate response, therefore spreading thin the response capacity. Further flooding could also hamper access to affected populations, especially those that are so isolated within their communities, thereby slowing the speed of the response. The issue of access to the affected areas is also one which government will have to look into urgently. Ladies and gentlemen, government and humanitarian partners have worked together to develop a response plan based on analysis of the context, immediate humanitarian need, and projected needs for the coming months, given that it is still early in the rainy season. As a basis for specific sector response plans, overarching strategic priorities have been identified to support effective and timely humanitarian assistance to populations in need in Malawi. The overall strategic objectives for this response plan are to ensure that affected households receive timely assistance. This assistance is for both immediate life-saving as well as to prevent outbreaks of waterborne diseases and malaria. Further to this, all partners should endeavor to also support resumption and continuous access of basic services by the flood-affected population. These four priorities will remain valid and continue to guide the activities and projects outlined within specific sector response plans. The response plan is seeking $81 million to address immediate needs of up to 638,000 people who have been affected by the floods. My government, through the Ministry of Finance, has released 500 million kwacha under the National Disaster Fund. The United Nations funds totaling $150,000 are being utilized to strengthen the operation and coordination capacity at district level. This response will focus on the following as priority populations for targeted interventions: those most affected by floods and those that have lost their crops and livestock as a result of the floods. The plan is also focusing on the following priority sectors: health, water, sanitation and hygiene, shelter, protection, food security, agriculture, nutrition, transport, logistics and education. Although the food impact this year is extensive, most of the flood-affected areas are low-lying. Settlement patterns normally fall further at confluences of rivers or flood further areas close to major rivers. This plan also includes aspects of recovery that will incorporate resilience and disaster risk management to ensure future flood impacts are minimized. The plan also supports the resumption of best livelihood activities, particularly agriculture. This recognizes that it is crucial that affected populations should resume their livelihood activities, including through strengthened recovery and resilience efforts, although these are not costed within this plan. I'm confident that we have so far put in place mechanisms to handle this disaster, and I appeal to local and international donors and other well-wishers to continue supporting our efforts in accordance with the response plan. The long-term response, the Ministry of Lands, House and Urban Development is finalizing the National Disaster Risk Management Policy. This work was started in 1991 with the enactment of the Disaster Preparedness and Relief Act, which provides the legal and institutional framework for disaster management in the country at national, district, area, and village level. The Act was, however, enacted without a policy. This is why we are still facing numerous challenges in adopting a proactive and systematic approach to address disaster risks in the country. The policy will guide stakeholders in implementing programs and activities to effectively address disaster risks and reduce the impact of disasters amongst communities in the country. At the moment, the draft disaster policy has not yet been discussed by the full cabinet. It is expected that the policy will be adopted at the next cabinet meeting. The overall objective of the policy was sustainably reduce disaster losses in lives and the socio-economic and environmental assets of individuals, communities, and the nation, as well as create an enabling framework for establishment of a comprehensive disaster risk management system for Malawi. It is my sincere hope that this policy will assist us in dealing with some of the current problems which we are facing, especially issues of relocation of people. As you may be aware, some of the problems could be reduced if we move people from the disaster-prone areas to some places safer. I would like to request the Ministry of Lands and Housing to ensure that wide consultations have been made with the concerned parties so we have common ground for the implementation of this policy. We needed it yesterday. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to once again thank all the people who are working so hard to help our dear brothers and sisters in need in the affected areas. We have demonstrated that we are indeed sons and daughters of Malawi by holding hands to help our relatives in need. Government to ensure that all the assistance that has been received go to the right beneficiaries and not tolerate misuse of such assistance. I also wish to thank all who have assisted in various ways, local citizens, the international community, as well as well-wishers for the help that's given to Malawi. The task before us is mammoth, but let us work together to help one another, but also to rebuild Malawi. I thank you for your attention. God bless you. God bless Malawi.
That was the State President, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, presenting a statement of national address on disaster.
Mtsogoleri wa dziko lino, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, wapereka utenga wa Malawi okhuza ngozi zakuchuluka kwa madzi a mvula zomwe zakhuza Malawi ambiri maboma 15 mdziko muno. Atate ndi amayi, anyamata ndi asungwana, mtsogoleri wa dziko lino, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika.
Amayo anzanga kumuyambira mwezi wa January chaka chino cha 2015 mvula ya mphamvu idapangisa kusefera kwa madzi maboma 15 mwa 28 anziko muno omwe ndi Chikwawa, Nsanje, Palombe, Zomba, Rumpi, Kalonga, Kyolo, Machinga, Mangochi, Mchewu, Chilazo, Mulanje, Balaka, Salima ndi Blantyre. Ifa aboma tapeza kuti anthu pafupi 174,000 anasamuka nyumba zawo zomwe zinawonongeka ndi mvulayi. Anthu okwana 62 anamwalira. Amayenda abambo, ine nditayendera madera amene munachitika ngozi, ndikula kuti zinthu zimene zikufika ndi izi: zakudya, malo okhala, zovala, madzi okumwa, sopo, ziwiya za mkichini, mabulangeti, mapepa ya plastic, zimbuzi, zipango zawo limikuti agwiritse ntchito munyengo ino komanso chitetezo. Ine ndikupepesa anthu onse amene anavutika chonchi komanso amene ataba yawo pa ngozi. Mizimu yawo iwuse mutendere. Ine ndikuthokoza anthu anziko muno, azipani, vipingo, mabungwe omwe sayi aboma, komanso mabungwe ndi mayiko akunja omwe akugwira ntchito kuthandiza anthu okhuzidwawa. Ine ndikupempha kuti zomwe mwachitazi mupitirize kuti abale onse asapitirire kuvutika. Amayenda abambo, unawaza malo pakadali pano okuyankhula ndi magulu osiyanasiyana kuti mwakhazikitse ndondomeko ya za ngozi zogwa mwazizizi. Cholinga chake ndi kuti tikhale ndi mphamvu zothandiza anthu omwe angakhuzidwe ndi ngozi zazizizi mwansanga. Posachedwa ine ndi nduna zanga tizakambira ku kabineti ndikuwomeza ndondomeko imeneyi. Ambuye akudalitseni nonse. Ambuye adalitse Malawi.
Mtsogoleri wa dziko lino, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, kupereka utenga okhuza ngozi zakuchuluka kwa madzi a mvula zomwe zakhuza Malawi ambiri maboma 15 mdziko muno.